Another video that will be shadow banned because it's the truth and a truth that, I don't know, I guess none of big tech wants to tell the truth, do they? So the reason for the open borders, well, one of the biggest, well, it ties back to the hospital problem and transplants. I mentioned this author in my last video. This book goes back to 2011 or 12. Yeah, The Red Market. It's all about harvesting organs. It's like what China does. I wondered, you know, and I've heard people say, oh, this has been going on in Chicago forever. They, you know, take organs from the homeless, and you know, you think that's a conspiracy theory, but then you see how when I worked at Northwestern, well, they did 2 double lung transplants during the height of COVID when everybody else was worldwide lockdown, and you're wondering, like, how did you get the organs so fast? And you opened up a COVID patient, and everybody was being told that no, we can't do any surgeries, electives, we can't. Everybody's got to stay home because we don't know anything, but we'll do a couple double lung transplants, then praise ourselves for months. That was the worst part, is Northwestern had no class in that area. It was like, can you kind of recognize that the whole world's locked down, and praising yourself on the news and for months to your employees, just, it makes you sort of look like trash. Just saying, it did. But what's worse is they did it on 2 COVID patients at the height of COVID, and one of those young women who had a double lung transplant died 3 months later because she committed suicide, because she had no quality of life. See, it's sad that doctors and people don't realize that you will not save any life. I don't care what you do. If you take quality away, you will kill people. Okay? If you take their quality of life away. People in the nursing homes died, especially in places like Minnesota and all the blue states, because you locked those people in their rooms. You took their number one quality of life away, you bastards. And you want to call yourself experts. So people will sell their organs or sell an organ because they're so desperate for money. There's the reason it's not called, it's the black market, but red market, because it's for organs. There's even surgeons that will, or it's been known, that when they're opening you up for something else, they may just, oh, we'll take this. They don't need it. And I didn't know this, but I guess Rockefeller has had like three heart transplants. So what I'm wondering is that why Hollywood adopts all these international kids? You know, and then suddenly their kids die, or, you know, you don't hear about them again, then the star goes on. Like, I'm just like John Travolta, you know. I mean, he didn't adopt any international kids, but his son died, his wife died. I mean, I'm just speculating. I could be totally wrong. It's just, you know, or Angelina Jolie or Madonna, who adopt all these international children. Is it just so that when they need to harvest an organ, as they get older, they have it? I'm just wondering. You got to wonder, because of this idea that, oh, it's so diverse to have an open border. No, it's nothing but irresponsible. And it seems to be helping the industry of transplants, because there's been this sudden increase that keeps going up every year of organ donations. 2023, U.S. government announces plans to overhaul organ transplant system. Oh, yeah, open the border. Adopt internationally, just take people's children from other country, whatever they're doing. Biden-Harris administration acts to improve access to kidney transplants. Kidneys are the most trafficked organ. Yeah, and they say it's all about health equity. Anybody that talks about health equity doesn't care at all about health. And of course, oh, the American Hospital Association, they love this, right? CMS issues proposed rule for mandatory organ transplant pay model. Yeah, because they just want those transplants. It's all about the money. This year, January, continued increase in organ donation drives new records in 2023. New milestones exceeded. When you have an open border, I would imagine that that would be totally possible. So it says here that there were 46,632 organ transplants performed from both living and deceased donors in 2023. This represents an 8.7% increase over 2022 and a 12.7% increase over 2021, which was the first year with more than 40,000 organ transplants. Oh. There were 39,679 organ transplants from deceased donors. This represents an 8.9% increase over 2022 and marks the 11th consecutive record-setting year. There were 6,953 organ transplants made possible by living donors, the highest total since 2019, when an all-time record of 7,397 living donors transplants took place. While over 90% of living donor transplants are kidney transplants, living donor living transplants have been increasing steadily for the last few years. Oh, I'm sure they have. There were 658 living liver donor transplants in 2023, which set another new record. What do you know? Oh, and then it goes on to talk about the disproportionate health to Black and Hispanics. Yeah, I feel like the science is just using that population again, like the Democrats do, of course, as well. In addition, for the first time, more than 8,500 transplants were performed for Hispanic Latino recipients. For the first year ever, more than 10,000 liver transplants were performed in 2023. There were 10,660 liver transplants performed, which was an 11.9% increase over 2022 and continues an 11-year trend of annual records. In addition, lung transplants exceeded 3,000 for the first time. The all-time records were also set for kidney and heart transplants. Yeah, it just seems like it's booming in the transplant world. There's been a breakthrough in organ transplants. Yes, just, a month ago, a little over a month ago. Surgeons at Northwestern Medicine say they have successfully transplanted a kidney while the patient was awake. It's not a joke or a hoax. They did it with local anesthetic. Yeah, I would expect nothing less than being, this ridiculous from Northwestern. I have a personal history there. So, who would want to go through this? Okay, but they did it on some young kid that had to get a kidney transplant. He was asking if he could have something to eat during the procedure. Who would want to be traumatized like that? Having an organ who would want to be awake for anything like that? But you know why they would do this? I'll tell you why. They won't admit it. But it's faster because I guess they sent this kid home the next day. Yeah. Because then you don't have the downtime of being under anesthesia, and then they can clean the room and get the next transplant in. It's all about money to these bastards. That's all it is. I mean, who would want to be awake? That would be traumatizing. I mean, what if something went wrong? I mean, this surgeon was talking to the guy, telling him what he's doing. I don't want to hear how you're cutting this and cutting that or hearing anything. Like, it's insanity. But it seems like the most gruesome people. I mean, they say surgeons have to have that tendency towards psychopathy because they're cutting people open. And you just got to wonder, they just want to make it we don't want you to sleep. It just seems like, the medicine, especially after how they behaved in 2020. But that's you would have an increase in all transplants with an open border, because when you traffic, you're not just trafficking to sex exploit children or people. You're trafficking for labor, you're trafficking for organs. We're no different than China. We are China, really. Sometimes wonder what world God put us in. On the trail of the world's organ brokers, bone thieves, blood farmers, and child traffickers. All the politicians that don't do anything about the border are all behind this. The bastards they are.